Good evening, everybody and fellow travelers on Spaceship Earth. And good evening, Jackson. Why is our background gone?
Oh, I was like, I don't know. We're sitting in a void today.
I guess it's turning everything off now. It's like
Weird.
it's like how many times can we make you join the stream and have to remember these 27 things? Oh, you remember 27? Let's make it 28 things for you to remember of every show. You remembered
Mhm.
that? Let's make it 29 then.
Right. Going to make this difficult for you. Just because I can.
Right?
Yeah.
How you doing today?
Doing pretty good. I worked on finally got like the sketches for this done. So I got Mal designed, which is Aros's Miape, his darker self. Um so that's what I'm hoping to get this done today is get some serious inking done so I can move on and work on somebody else for once.
Right? Well, I
What are you
got
working on?
some very interesting criticisms, so I can now start working on these momentary ghosts and fix
Ah,
these.
got back from your editor then?
Yep.
Yeah.
And he had some horribly sharp things to work on that I'm not going to be happy about.
Oof.
So we have a couple of minor fixes, but then we have a big fix, which I'm not sure about what to do with that one. So I'm going to have to poke around here and figure out what I want to do with it. But hopefully tonight will be a good night for that. So there we go. But I think his first critique was pretty straightforward, and I appreciated it. I understood it, which was if the girl they pick up has DNA that they've never seen before in their entire lives, then she'd be left on the big ship that shows up at the end.
Mm.
And I need her to be with the ship, our hero's ship, as our hero's ship leaves.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, ah, crap.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've decided to change her DNA pattern so it matches Chang's, and then make Chang's DNA group rare. So it's enough to make her
Mm.
suspicious, but not enough to make it so that she would go, we will now turn this over to Command and let Command deal with it. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sort of basically like a little plot hole.
Yeah.
No,
That's
not the plot
that's one
holes.
of the things that he hit me with, and the other one was we don't spend enough time with Alex, the girl, to attach to her to understand why she wants to stay.
Mm.
And I was like, that one's tougher because what he really thinks we should do is find some time and have her spend some time with the crew instead of going out and wandering around and doing stuff. That's going to be a rewrite of many pages. But this is why all of my pages are this complex, like you're about to see right here. Look how complex this is. Oh,
Yep.
hang on. It's not.
Keep them simple so it's less a pound. What do they say? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why this is how complicated the art was.
Yeah. Keep it
Right?
simple.
Because now if
Exactly.
I
So that
blow
it's
this
easier to
entire
redo.
page out, it won't matter. If I have to throw the page out so I can go redraw the thing, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, that's why like with the pitch deck that I'm making, and that's actually what I'm working on here. This is the whole like pitch deck. While I'm working on it, the pages I'm going to submit, I'm only going to draw out the first 5 pages, and then because that's all they asked for was 5 like nice artwork, like nice just to see what you're looking for, and then if I want to do the rest, I can keep them in maybe like a middle ground cleanup stage. So that way it's like, like a clean set of pencils so that it's like understandable.
Yeah.
Because I don't mind having to redraw like 5 pages or make changes to a few pages. I don't want to have to make changes to 20 or to 16 pages. I'm already having to redraw the first 70 that I've already made. So not again. Not again. I've learned my lessons the first few times. Arlos is looking effing fabulous today. He ended up looking way more feminine than I thought he would, but that's okay.
Yeah, all right.
It fits his personality, I think. We're here to destroy and smash, like, preconceptions.
Yeah, I got nothing wrong with that.
Well, I was worried about people being like, oh, like, he looks really feminine, and, like, this must be, like, a yaoi or something, and I'm like, no? No? I've had, like, that was some of the feedback I got, was like, is this for a yaoi? And I'm like, no? Like, why does he have to look hyper masculine? Like, shit, it's not a shonen, you losers.
Yeah.
Damn.
I think, you want my opinion on this one, I think you worry too much about what people will worry about.
Well, I was just looking for general feedback. It was like a group of friends. I was just asking for general feedback. And they were like, oh, yeah, he looks too... Like, they asked, they're like, is that a woman? Like, that was their feedback. Is that a woman? I'm like, no, it's a man. And they're like, oh, is this a yaoi? I'm like, no.
Yeah, but
No,
yaoi,
no.
why go to yaoi as a jump?
Because, like, I guess, like, it's a trope or something that the men are, like, feminized. Like, they're made to look like femboys.
Well,
or
yeah,
something.
but that I wouldn't jump to that.
Me too.
Same.
Like, I don't know why they jumped to that.
Yeah.
And
that's kind of like, wow, your main character's got big boobs. Are you drawing porn? I mean, it's like, whoa,
right?
How'd you get there?
Right? Yeah.
That's a hell of a jump.
Yeah, it kind of sucked. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it did hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I don't think yaoi, like, when I look at your stuff at all. I can see, because you make bishi, your characters are very bishi, but that's fine.
Yeah,
that, it puts it in there with greats like Fushigi Yugi. I'm not gonna complain.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, that's what I told them. Is I'm like, have you read Fushigi Yugi? And they're like, no. Yeah. They're like, that's a shoujo. Why would I read that? I'm like, bruh. Have you not?
Hey,
you've obviously not read Fushigi
it's Shonen Jump that it came from. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's in the Viz app. So it's like, yeah, it's like, guys, I can that immediately. And it's frustrating when you're working outside of the shonen genre or demographic. Yeah, even I mess up.
But that's the thing. Like, because of Fushigi Yugi, I actually jumped to Sarah's, which is shoujo.
Oh yeah, Sarah's. Don't forget Basara.
Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying that,
Red River, Yona of the Dawn.
Because I got into Yuotase through Fushigi Yugi, I jumped to Sarah's from that one. That made sense to me.
Mm-hmm. I love Sarah's. Mm-hmm. I haven't finished it, but I love Sarah's.
Neither have I.
It's on the Viz app, I think.
It's like Urusei Yetsuda. I haven't finished it either because there's only 4 million pages in it. Because Rumiko really needs to go to sleep somewhere along the line here. I think she's been awake since 1980.
Yeah, I don't know how she, like. Well, I know how she's doing it. She's got a buttload of assistants, but it's like she's amazing. Just like people talk about Oda being a truck, and I'm like, have you seen Rumiko Takahashi?
Right.
Have you seen like how just the sheer amount of series and content that she has? Like, yeah, there's Oda. He has one series that's this like humongous, like Tolkien like world, and then you have like Rumiko Takahashi, who's done the same thing, but they're all different.
Right.
Like, they're different series, but it's well known that they interact with each other in the Rumik world. So like I feel like everyone passes over like Rumiko Takahashi because they're like, oh well, she like her art looks softer, I think, so they like pass over it, and it's like, and there tends to be like some romance in it, but it's like the romance isn't the focus of these stories usually. I mean, dude, look at like freaking Mermaid Saga. Like, oh my god. That was a brutal series. Yeah, it's one of the, like, honestly, if I meet people that only read shonen and only read like shonen jump shonen and don't read anything else, like that's a huge red flag for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like that's a huge red flag. Like maybe I don't want to be friends with this person only because they have a really limited. In like you're allowed to like what you like. You're allowed to say,
Yeah,
"Oh
I
no,
mean,
I don't want to
most
read
of the
this."
stuff I read is going to be shonen because I like robots. And with the exception of Escaflowne, I very rarely find a shoujo that runs robots and, or
Yeah, that is
spaceships.
difficult. Yeah, that is really difficult. But for me, it's more like these are people who like they read manga, like they have a very specific thing in mind, and like they're not wanting to broaden their horizons, and like they're only interested in like battle, fighting, like gotta have power scaling, blah blah blah. Blah. Like to me, that's a red flag as far as like friendship, and I hate to say that. I hate saying that, but it's like if you aren't willing to like expand, like call yourself like a shonen fan, don't call yourself a manga fan. Like to me they're different things. If you're not willing to expand, and now here's the caveat, like the only time I have a problem with someone who only reads shonen or only reads specific types of shonen, if they make assumptions on shoujo or josei or seinen because they've not read
Right.
those things. That's where I have the problem. Like if, like for example, I have a friend, the only manga he's ever read is One Piece. He's not read anything else.
Sure. But there's nothing wrong
And
with that as
that's
long as he doesn't have an opinion.
exactly. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. He's super nice. He's super chill. Like he loves hearing about other stuff, and like eventually, like I'm trying to get him to try sand blaster or sand something that came out recently from like the Toriyama creators. It's done in the same style, so like I'm trying to get him into Toriyama because I think he'd really like it.
Right.
But if he doesn't get into it, that's perfectly fine. And then there's another guy that was arguing with me and saying that the reason why shojo does really bad is because it's really shitty. It's really shitty storytelling, and it's only for girls, and girls don't read manga. And it basically was saying how like shojo is completely inferior to shonen, like really really nasty sexist things.
Yeah, that's really weird.
He was in my freaking Twitter space once.
Wow.
And I was like, no, dude, like this is not okay. You're in my Twitter space. You're gonna like get the f out if you can't be respectful.
You can't block
And he
now.
was, anyway, yeah, it doesn't matter to me. I just mute his ass. So I don't even get any notifications if they say anything. I tend to mute rather than block now, even though if you make my block list, like I don't like you some block, but if you make my block list, you fucked up.
Yeah.
Like I'm a nice person. Plus, me doing community work, it's my job to be community focused and not pull that kind of extreme.
Right.
But if you're gonna be an asshole to me, I'm gonna block you.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, if I can't deem that there's anything valuable in this relationship between that's like a mutual exchange, not just like you being a butthole and me having to like sit there and take it because like gotta be nice. Then no, I'm not gonna be around you. And there's been a few people like that. Like there's been some really 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 stupid fights on Twitter.
Sure.
That I've been.
Well, there have been stupid fights on Facebook.
Oh yeah, I've seen a couple.
I've been in a couple of fights where I'm like, why the hell am I here? Why am I in this problem? I shouldn't even be here.
I've had to unfollow a couple people on Facebook lately who have lost their way.
Yeah.
And are getting into outrage marketing now, and it's really sad.
Yeah. So I mean, there are a couple of things that are interesting. Like I have noticed also that I've changed stance on things, and it's made things inaccessible now, which is interesting. As a younger person, I really liked things like Cutie Honey and Dirty Pear. As an older person, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'm in on that fan service.
Oh, I'm not on fan service at all.
Well, I know, but I mean, like, there's a certain amount of fan service that I'm like, I mean, Cutie Honey has always, Go Nagai is notorious for this. This is the same guy who Kekko Kamen comes from.
Right.
And Kekko Kamen was entertaining to me early on. And later on, I started to realize that a lot of what Kekko Kamen was all about was just really trying to figure out if they could get cute actresses to be naked. And then I'm like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, not for me, Chief.
yeah, we just
that kind of feel.
totally had this entire discussion with my buddy, my best friend. So my editor on this, by the way, is my best bud. I've known him since high school. We met in high school because both of us were writing stories. And back in high school, you had to go to the computer lab to do that, not you. So you had to go to a specific building to do it, and there were all these, IBM 8080s. They weren't even like 286s at that point. There were all these old IBM things which had just a word processor on them. So he and I have been giving each other our writing for nigh on to 35 years now.
Yeah.
So this is a normal thing for me to give to him because I love to give him my stories, because he'll sit there and go, no, this isn't working. You're going to take this entire section out because I can't tell what's going on here. And you really need to pick up this character here. And he's like really, really good at being super detailed about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have a consultant that I work with as well.
Yeah.
And she was able, like when she read it, she was like, "Who's your protagonist?" She's like, "I know who your protagonist is, but I had no idea. Like, if I didn't know, like, I would have not known who your protagonist was." And I was like, "What?"
But sometimes he's wrong. He looked at he read the Omake, and he just got all hung up on the fact that Captain Chang was naked through the entire scene. He just couldn't leave that alone. And I'm like, different morals, different time. And he's like, yes, but she's a captain. She should put on her jacket or something because she's doing something official. And I'm like, she's not. The whole scene is her friend waking her up and saying, get up, dude, I'm leaving. And her going, what about you again? Who are you? She's hungover.
Yeah. Oh, what's going on? What's happening?
Right. So she's not getting dressed. This is also a buddy of hers. This is also an alien. So not literally an alien, but it's an AI, which means that the AI doesn't see really any difference necessarily. I mean, the AI does, but it'd be kind of like if you had, I don't know, if you saw a cat without their collar on.
Like, no, heaven forbid.
How dare you? You'd be like, you should probably put your collar on your cat just in case the cat escapes. But you wouldn't be like, oh, I'm shocked. Your cat is naked.
No,
because the
blasphemy
that way. It's a different culture and stuff like that. But so sometimes he does get hung up. But that's something I've noticed, that as I've grown older, I've gotten much more fine definition on that. Like, nudity in Bellatrix Rising is targeted for a reason. It's supposed to be we're over it. We're done with being obsessed about our bodies and whether they're perfect or not. And we're over hiding them in shame or not, or whatever. We're over that. Yeah. That's what it's supposed to be. And so it's supposed to illustrate that we just don't care. It's fine. We don't care. We're okay. We're cool. But it's a point. Whereas like Cutie Honey, she every time she transforms, she has to get completely naked every time. So that you can see Cutie Honey completely naked. And I'm like, okay. Well, like, and like the dirty pair who are barely wearing any clothes at all.
Right.
And I'm like,
yeah, I was always really turned off by fan service for some reason. Yeah. Like, it didn't matter if it was male, female fan service. It didn't matter. Like, something just never clicked with me about it. And so now when I see like what they call TNA, especially in like crowdfunding.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. Like, and there are people that get offended by that. They're like, "Oh, you're sex shaming," and it's like, no, if I, for example, like, there's a good friend of mine. Like, I can't say he's a good friend, but we're friends, I think. Like, we're respectful of each other, and for the most part, his stuff, he has a lot of like. I want to call it fan service, but that's the type of that's the stuff that he talks about. That's the stuff that he wants to do. Like, that's the kind of variance that he has to help like sell his Kickstarters and stuff. And I'm not interested in that. And there was a discussion where he's like, if I were to do this, would you support it? And I said no. And it sounded like he got a little offended by that. And it's like, dude, like, I don't care what you do. Like, if you use sex to sell your Kickstarter, I don't want to support your Kickstarter because that's not what I'm about. Like, and if your story is about like not safe for work content, you know, where like some girl's butt or boobs is hanging out half the time, that's not something I want because I'm not your demographic. Like, and he got offended by that.
My feeling on this one, well, because you're making, in his mind's eye, you're making a judgment on him, which of course you're not. But in his mind's eye, you are.
Yeah, it's like that's not what it'd be like if he didn't like, you know, gods and mythology and ghosts, and he decided because he doesn't like ghost stories, he doesn't want to read my manga. Oh, are you shaming ghosts? Do you think ghosts aren't real? Like, do you hate magic and stuff? Do you hate the occult? Like, are you religiously oppressing me? You know, like I could do the exact same thing, but I don't because I know that like that's not your thing.
It's
like
not what you're into.
You know.
And I mean,
it's literally the exact same thing.
Even though the nudity in my comics are specific and they're always portrayed as non-sexual, I'd be fine if you weren't interested in it. I'd be like, that's cool.
Yeah.
No problem, man.
Yeah, for me that's the difference. If it's like a non-sexual thing, and like I read some comics that have sexual content in them, that's fine. But as long as the sex isn't like the point, like what you're using is, if you use sex as a gimmick, then I'm not going to read your stuff.
Well,
if it's just part of the story and it happens every once in a while, that's fine. It happens in Godsbane. There's a couple of scenes where people are naked, but like that's not made to sell the story. It's not made for fan service. That's
and it's not like I'm going to sell stickers of Captain Chang naked or whatever. That's not going to happen. No. I mean, I can't imagine any point of which you'd need to sell stickers of naked Chang. You know. I mean, I guess I could, if you really like worked really hard on this, like you could find some quote that she said during some scene where she happened to be naked. That might be a thing where I might decide that selling it. But the entire point of what I've been trying to do this entire time is it's as if she was wearing a t-shirt that was a different color. You don't highlight it. You don't make it big or deal, you know, out of it. It's not like, you know, here comes Captain Chang. She's not in her uniform. She's in a t-shirt and jeans. We're going to stare at the t-shirt. Now stare at the jeans. You know what? No. You just draw the scene. You know, the scene comes out exactly as it does. But it's funny that my friend got, not triggered isn't the right word. He felt that it was very in your face. Like I was trying to make a point and being specifically in your face about it. And I'm like, that's funny because I literally told myself we're going to draw this scene exactly like you would if she was wearing clothes and boring clothes, nothing interesting, right? So I specifically drew. In fact, that was the reason I drew that whole scene, was to practice that, because you do have to separate it in your brain. We are so programmed, you know.
Yeah.
So you really do kind of have to go, okay, what am I doing here? How am I doing this? You know, what's the story? You know, and you're so programmed to see, oh, it's boobs. Oh no, we've got to like totally freak out. And you know, we're so programmed that way that I was like, that's the reason I wrote that scene, was so that I could practice. Can I do it? Does it look like I'm objectifying her? Does it look like I'm, you know, highlighting things? You know, and in fact, the fact that neither one of them talk about it or discuss it at all, I feel like actually makes it feel more natural. But he was like, it's like boobs. Here's boobs. There's so much boobs. And I'm like, not sure if you're getting the point. I feel like you're not getting the point. No, I don't know. I'd like to hear some other opinions. So if anybody else wants to read that and then chime in and tell me what they feel, like I said, it was experimental. So if it doesn't work, that's cool. I've experimented. Now but if nobody else seems to find it to be a objectifying of Chang, or feels like it's really like obnoxiously in your face, then I'm good. Once again, I will remind everybody where our comics exist by putting the thingy up on our screen, where you can see that I have done Bellatrix Rising, which is over here at globalcomics.com/C/Bellatrix-Rising. And of course, Jackson is doing God's Bane, And you can find that at globalcomics.com/C/Godsbane dash. There you go.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, here. I got to change this thing though. Both the opening both the opening credits, not the opening credits, closing credits, and this. I'll say cat. So I went to go fix it. Hey, Juan.
No worries.
Good to see you. I feel like this is a simple fix. It's only page 18 that needs to be messed with. Yeah, I think I can just fix page 18 and we'll be fine on 2. The question really is, do I need to rip out 20 through 26 or 27 and still get the point?
Yeah, that stuff's always hard to decide. Like, do I actually need this?
Yeah, I mean, I need that scene. It's an
Mhm.
interesting scene, but I can move it to the next issue. It's not related to the story directly. So
Then,
I
yeah,
can tear
then
it out
then
and then
it'd be
spend a
fine.
little bit more time with Alex, which is what I think I should do. And I'm kind of bummed. I don't want to tear out the scene. So
It's not like you're throwing it
no,
away.
I'm
Though.
not.
It's just going to be at a later point.
I'm not tossing it out. We're just, I don't know.
It still can make you sad, though. I know the feel.
Oh yeah. I mean, the scene will be there forever. It's not really a problem. And I think I'll move 24 and 25 as sort of the wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
So she can to wrap that thread. So what I need to do is go from 20 to 24 or 5. 24 maybe. So this is going to be 5 pages of a scene with Alex not feeling like she belongs, not feeling like something. We got to come up with something that makes it a reason why she decides to leave. That's one of his other problems was, here's this most important person that has ever existed, and then they just let her go wander around in like a post-apocalyptic wasteland. You know. And I was like, well, that is kind of true. We're going to have to give some kind of impetus as to why she had to leave. And you want to show it, not tell it.
Right. Can't get these to line up.
Somebody's dog's out there yapping away. I'm not opening my window yet, my door. The last few days have been really brutal. It's still 27 degrees outside.
Hot. Oof. Let's see. Yeah, I had it open earlier today for maybe like 5 minutes, and then I'm like,
and you regretted your life choices.
Yeah, it's 25 here.
Yeah. Hey, Chuan, what's the temperature in Vietnam? I'm curious. What's your temperature? It's 27 Celsius here in Denver. It's so hot. But you probably actually think that's kind of cold because you're in monsoon land where you're like, it gets brutal there.
Yeah. It's 25 here in Tennessee.
That's too hot for night.
Oh.
You can't even sleep.
It is.
You can't sleep in 25 degrees.
Nope. I can do 20, but I can't do 25. Right? Hi, Miso. Gonna be chill
once
today?
it gets to 20 and below, we're good. Once it drops below 20. But if it's going to sit there and screw around at 27, I can't believe that we're hotter than you.
Right? It's been like that a lot lately, I've noticed.
Like the last few days, it's been so hot. Ugh.
I was looking at our schedule, or not schedule, schedule, our weather schedule. Our
weather
forecast.
Schedule, that weird weather schedule.
Mm-hmm. There is not one day below 30 for the next week.
See, that's
and
just
a half.
not right.
Like, there's a couple days it goes all the way up to 39.
Hey, Chuan, that's true. We did not have a live stream yesterday. We do not usually
Correct.
stream on Friday night through Saturday or through Sunday day. So this is the first stream of the new week. This is effectively our Monday stream. All right. I'm saving these scenes so that we can come back to them later, because I'm going to delete them from here, and we're going to redo this area, because I really don't think this is going to be viable anyway. Okay, so I pulled these scenes out, and this whole section is going to be saved somewhere else. And this wraps this scene. He was also saying that he had a problem with scale of propagation, because what he was saying was, he was like, so you've got these 2 destroyers coming in, and so you're going to make it so nobody can enter or leave for 5 years. He's like, that's a little rough, don't you think? I mean, yeah, I get it. You're not going to be able to spar with these 2 destroyers, but that's a little excessive. That will solve easily. He can solve that one pretty simply. Or we can solve that one in the system here by just making it only screws up the system for like 2 weeks. He's like, 2 weeks is fine. 2 weeks is not that big of a deal. And you can always say, there are good guys coming in, but they won't be here for 2 weeks. So if we did this, it'll mess up everything and delays the destroyer for 2 weeks. And I was like, that's probably better. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I have 8 pages that need to be filled by something. So well, the mess hall scene could probably still be no. Originally, when I had her meet the cat, it was in her VIP quarters. And the cat said something like, we can't talk here. There's an AI and he's trying to find me. And so he's looking for me and I don't want him to find me. So we have to go talk somewhere else. And I kind of liked that because that got her off the ship. But it allowed them to talk for a little while on the ship. So maybe I'll do that instead of bringing the cat. Yeah, maybe that's what I'll do. I'll move the cat scene into the ship because he's an AI. The cat is an AI. And so if the cat is being chased by another AI around the ship, he's using ship resources somewhere, and the AI is looking for what resources are being used. That's probably a better scene. So maybe I'll do that. I'm just talking out loud. You don't need to respond.
You're good. Miso's got my arm held hostage.
Yep. 'Tis the end of your arm. Rest in peace, arm.
I love that.
Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not. You're definitely
Right?
not wrong.
I've been there. So our elder cat is kind of at the stage of, I hate everything. So any bit of comfort in this world that I can eke out, I'm going to. So you sit down in the chair and she gets up to come over and get in your lap right away. Like that's what she does.
No.
She like waits until you sit down and then just gets into your lap. It doesn't matter who it is anymore. She once was really picky. Not anymore. Now you could come in the door. She'd never seen you before in her whole life. And once you sit down, she'll be in your lap.
No, that's how Miso is. That's how she is with most anybody. Like if when she comes in or when anyone comes in, she'll be terrified of you for like the first 3 minutes. Then you sit down and then she'll approach you and then all of a sudden, oh my god, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. So she's very similar. She just loves she just loves people. She loves attention. Like I have not met anyone who did not like Miso. That wasn't a cat. That wasn't another cat.
Miso, huh?
Yeah. Well, she likes to play, and when she plays rough.
Yeah.
She's a very excited, high energy, play with me cat. And she's still very kitten-like in that way, and a lot of other cats don't like it. She likes to play chase specifically. And you can see how that probably doesn't go well with other cats. Hi, Miso. Hi, baby. You want to sit on my shoulder? Yeah. Oh, yeah, you did. No, you cannot lick my face. Don't lick my hair either, please. I just took a shower.
And then it's the smell of cat breath.
Mm-hmm. There you go. You're gonna have to sit over there, Miso. It's over there or it's over here. You can't sit in my lap tonight, I'm sorry. Would you stop biting my popcorn? She likes biting plastic.
Yeah, George does too.
And
it's so weird.
Mm-hmm. So if I leave anything plastic-ish around, she's like, OMG, I have to go eat it. It's like, please don't. She's opened a couple things of bread that way. Gluten-free bread is bad enough. And then she decides, oh, I'm gonna eat this, and then my bread goes stale faster than it should. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like this weird thing that's happened with my air conditioning unit. And
yeah.
He's taken the entire drain thing and dragged it off to my room now, and it's under the bed. So the entire hose that connected it is now just riddled with teeth marks, and he's killed it. It's dead. Whatever it is dead. So now, the solution that I had, because this was dripping onto the carpet, the solution I had was to take. I went and got a pan that you usually put underneath your water heater, and I went and bought one for $20 or whatever, and then brought it over here and then stuck it underneath there. So now it's just dripping water into the pan because it's the condensation out point, where when the AC unit develops condensation, it starts to get water in it. So it's got the system to run the water out, and you're supposed to run that hose outside your room and out into somewhere else, so it goes outside. Well, he chewed that cable so much that it was just dripping on the floor, and it soaked my carpet. And I'm like, you're gonna ruin this carpet. And I'm gonna be so mad because I don't want to have to get rid of the carpet. So then you did that, and then it was like, well, there you go. So,
Yep.
because he's a weirdo.
If I don't put like any of my plastic away, like grocery wise, she will chew into it. Doesn't matter if it's trash bags, doesn't matter if it's toilet paper or bread. If there's plastic, she will chew on it. It makes me like scared to death that she's gonna chew on something and then she's gonna get sick and I'm gonna go to the vet. So I just try to do everything right when I get home, immediately take care of it.
Right.
It's like, Miso, why are you making my life so hard?
Mm-mm. Plastic. And it makes me wonder, what do they find so fascinating about the plastic? Why?
Hi, Dustin.
She still chirp?
Miso, yeah, she still chirps. Yep, still does. Every once in a while, I'll get it on video.
Yeah.
Every once in a while. Like that. It's more like a trill than a chirp now, but she still does her chirp every once in a while. It's really cute.
Brent.
Hey,
You're at
Brent,
your
what's
parents
up?
eating dinner, though. It's always a pleasure.
How you doing, Dustin? Oh, sorry. Yeah, eating dinner with family is perfectly fine, Brent. Like, how dare you have social time with your family?
What were you thinking? Nice.
What's that phrase? Omae wa mo shinderu.
You're already dead to me. I like the fact that you use Omaiwa too, as if that wasn't like dirty enough.
Right?
Well,
I think the original quote is Omae. I'm pretty sure that's the original quote. Is Omae.
Oh yeah, and yeah, that's pretty dirty.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. I had this one person in my Discord server that came in who was doing the whole like you know like the whole like moe culture, like moe, like they were acting like that. They were actually acting out a moe persona and using like all the time, and they were constantly posting gifs of like moe characters. And then, like, out of nowhere, they just decided to throw out Omae and Kono Yaro all the time. And I was like, oh no, bruh, stop it. like, I understand. Like, they're like, that's just how weebs talk to each other. And I'm like, no. Like, you are literally otaku in, like, the worst sense of the word. You are the definition of the original otaku, so no, we do not do that here. So I put a stop to that like right away. So like I DM'd them and said, hey, like it's not okay to use Omaya. And they'd said it like 2 or 3 times to people, and it was making others uncomfortable because like they understand like the cultural significance behind calling someone Omaya. I feel bad. I just feel bad saying it so many times. But I'm giving a lesson here, so it's okay. But yeah, like they were like, it's like we know like how Maya is like a really big deal, and so I DM'd them and I was like, look, like I understand, like, you're having a lot of fun, but this is like a serious server. We're trying to be semi-professional here. Calling someone on my, especially, and then like turning on me as like the admin of the server and saying that it's not okay, like, or that you're basically saying like, oh, it's okay that I do it because, you know, like that's how weebs talk to each other. This isn't a weeb server. This is the manga making server. And like, if you were to act that way, like in front of a professional, like that would be really offensive. So, and then they're like, okay, I'll just call you Konoyaro then. No. And I'm like, oh, bruh, like you're basically just being a troll at this point. So, like, get lost. I think they're still in the server, but they've not said anything. Always watching, Wazowski. I can't do the voice. I'm always watching.
Right. And the answer to your question, Brent, probably. I know you tagged me in a couple of posts.
Hey, Jong. Hey, aliens. Hey, Dustin. What's up? Wow, all my YouTube peeps are coming in finally. Thank you, YouTube, for finally getting my stuff out to people.
Right, alerting people finally.
I've noticed that it takes about 30 minutes. Okay, it's been longer than 30 minutes, but usually it takes about 30 minutes or so. And then people will start coming in. It was the Life magazine from 1970.
Oh, yeah. I saw that. Apollo 18? You mean 13, yeah?
Coming in from Twitch, gonna start working on some stuff. Doing pretty good.
I'm working on rebuilding a scene.
Mm-hmm. You finally heard back from your editor.
I got it back from the editor, and now I got to rebuild the scene. It's fine. No arguments or complaints.
Oh, Brent says Apollo 13.
13, not 18. There was no Apollo 18, much to the chagrin of Mattingly.
And then I'm working on my pitch deck for God's Bane to send off to Viz Originals. I'm like, I didn't honestly ever Viz, yeah. When I went to San Diego Comic-Con, I had a portfolio review with Viz Media that went pretty good considering how badly it went. I know it sounds really funny. I'll keep it really short. I brought the wrong portfolio to the portfolio review. Instead of bringing my generalist portfolio, I accidentally brought the work in progress pitch deck that I had, and that was the only thing that I had. And so I asked them if they'd be willing to give me feedback based on that. And it went well enough that I got a business card afterwards. And they told me to follow up. And so I've been talking with one of the originals editors. And they've asked me what kind of feedback I want. Basically, how can I help you? With getting, more feedback and more detailed feedback. And so I've asked them if they'd be willing to look at God's Bane as a more formal thing, like a formal pitch. And they said sure. So I just got to get that ready for them. So I'm really nervous and really scared, but it's okay. It's okay to be scared.
Yeah, and you'll do it. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually really funny while I was there. So I I didn't know like who the judges or like reviewers were going to be. As I'm sitting there, I've said this like 50 million times. If you've already heard this, I'm sorry. Like,
It's all right, I'm drawing.
Huh?
I said, it's all right, I'm drawing.
Okay. When I was sitting there, like panicking because I knew I had like my wrong portfolio. I was like, okay, well, I know one of these guys looks really familiar. Like, I know I should know who this is. And I'm like scrolling through like the Viz Media LinkedIn trying to figure out who this person is. And I stop and I'm like, my stomach like fell to the floor. I was like, oh my gosh, no! It was like Michael from The Office. No, no! That was like me internally screaming. It was freaking Sasaki Hisashi, former editor of Weekly Shonen Jump, when
Right.
they had the wrong portfolio. And so I felt awful. Like, not only did I have the wrong portfolio, I had the wrong portfolio, and I was already on the list. So if I didn't show up, I'd be a no-show, which does not look good. So, especially if I were to want to go to like future reviews. So I thought, you know what? I'm talking with the girl who's sitting next to me, and like she kind of like helped me like realize that it's better to go up and ask. Like the worst they'll say is no.
But at least you showed
I
up.
want,
Yeah.
I showed up, and they're like, I like before I did anything else, I let them know I'm like, hey, like I have the wrong portfolio. Can you give me like feedback on what I do have like as its own merit, not with it being a pitch review, just like the art by itself. Can you give me feedback on that? And they're like, yeah, sure. So I sat down and it went well, and at the end they gave me a business card and said to follow up. So like even though like I went in with like completely unprepared, it worked out in my favor. So, which is funny. Every time I've gotten a break, that's exactly how it's happened. I've been completely unprepared every time I've gotten a break.
Yeah, it's
Like
actually,
the first
I now carry
Mhm.
one copy of all of my comics with me, one physical copy with me everywhere, because I've been caught now too many times going, and people are like, "Hi, I'm so and so from this very important thing, and who are you?" And I'm Guy. What do you do? Oh, I draw comics. Oh, really? Because I do something with comics. Can you show me some of your work? And I'm like, well, no, you know. So now I just carry stuff with me now all the time. It's easy because I've
Yeah.
got printed out copies of my comics, so I can just
Mhm.
hand them the books, which actually is also kind of an impact, because once you hit
Mhm.
them with an actual printed copy of your book, you're like, damn, this is printed, That's kind of cool.
It can also work as a leave behind.
Yeah.
So, like if they like it that much, or if you feel it's valuable enough to leave it with them, you're able to do that.
Which is something, yep, I have done. You can keep it. I've got a million more than I never sell, so there's that.
Well, you don't want to tell them
Yeah.
that. um, yeah, I like the other time that happened. Something similar happened to me was when I was I was interning with Tokyo Pop at the time, and I was walking one of their manga creators to a panel, and this was a how to draw manga panel with Wacom and Clip Studio. So they actually had an extra seat on the panel. And after I walked her there, they were like, "Oh, like Natalia, like do you know, do you know anybody that's here that could draw?" Natalia looks at me, and goes, "Oh, she draws. It's really good. It's really nice." And I was like, "Huh? What? No! Don't recommend me." I'd only been using Clip Studio for maybe like a year, so I didn't feel like I was like super confident with it yet. But they're like, "Oh, well, can you show me some of your work?" And this is Anime Expo, right?
Yeah.
And so like the internet's not super great, and so I'm like, "Oh shoot, like let me see maybe like." So I'm like trying to fit. I didn't have anything prepared because I didn't plan on that happening.
Right. That's
So
been
like,
my problem the entire time. This imposter
mhm,
syndrome that you and I both suffer from has just kicked my ass on that one, because I'm like, every time I go into these situations with these big wigs of some sort or another, I'm always like, they're not
mhm.
going to want to talk to me and they don't really care about me. So I don't need to be prepared. Some part of my brain just like, don't worry about it. It's fine. They're never going to talk to you. It's fine. And then they do.
Well, that
and then I'm like,
right? Yeah, and it's like, oh, for Anime Expo specifically, I was there to work for Tokyo Pop.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I was there for. I was supposed to get back to the table, and so like I had to call one of the Tokyo Pop people and be like, hey, like, can I be on this panel? Like, they've actually asked me to be there, and they're like, hell yeah, like, go enjoy it, like, go do it, like you got this.
right.
So they were really supportive, which was really awesome. Like, Tokyo Pop was really, really great to me. I know people talk trash about them, but they were nothing but kind to me.
Sure.
For, like, they definitely tried to make sure to take care of me while I was there. So anyway, but yeah, so like I decided, so not only did I get on this panel that, by the way, had 500 attendees, they had to stop letting people in.
Yeah.
So, which was crazy. Like, that was my first big panel, because I think the first panel I was ever on was that one at Rocky Mountain Comic Con forever ago.
Yeah.
That was technically the first panel I ever did. And then there was that one. And then during that panel, like, as we were like finishing getting ready, there was a piece of equipment that Wacom had brought that wasn't functioning. And so they're like, oh, well, I need to like run back, and I'm the only person with the code. And that was the moderator. So we were going to lose our moderator. And so he looks at all of the artists and is like, who wants to moderate? And you know how artists are. They're like, no, not me. And I'm like, I'll do it. Right. I live stream. I'm used to talking to people. And it went so well that they invited me back to moderate the next day.
Right.
So I ended up moderating 2 panels at Anime Expo with like no preparation, nothing. Like, I didn't really. And here, one of the artists I knew of, like, her name is Zelda CW. She does amazing manga and manhwa. She has a lot of like artwork for Heaven's Official Blessing and like that line. So like, I knew of her work, but I didn't know that the Zelda sitting right next to me was that Zelda.
Right.
So when I was introducing them and reading my script, I went, "You're that Zelda!" And so I'm moderating, right? And I have like a mini fangirl moment for like 3 seconds where I'm freaking out because I realize who this person is on my left-hand side. I'm like freaking out. And then I move forward. And like after that, we've been like, I'd say not like super close friends, but like I hang out on her streams and, like we can talk and stuff, and we're pretty chill, and she remembers me when I go in and stuff. So like since then we've been like friends, not like super close friends, but we've been friends, like business acquaintances. But she's super nice, she's super chill. So yeah. Oh, and then that opportunity, because I did those 2 really. So after those were over, I went to like on my time off at Anime Expo to go do what I wanted to do. I went to Wacom's booth and I drew live at their booth just for fun, for lulz. And they had this big old screen that would like face the crowd, and I was working on some Godsbane pages at the time, like some of the drafts I was making, and people stopped and I talked to them and I gave them advice. I just did what I do here. I just draw and
people
talk to people.
I talk to people and draw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were so like pleased with that I did that on my own, that the next week on Tuesday I got invited to be their resident at San Diego Comic-Con. I got a free ticket.
I totally lucked out being in the same place as Ben Dunn. No, I didn't necessarily luck out. I think somebody was trying to set me up with that, and I think that somebody is somebody I know rather well. But I think Neil was trying to set me up because he managed to get us into a panel where it was just like Todd, Neil, me, and Ben Dunn. And there was nobody else there. So I got to talk one-on-one, and then Ben asked, is anybody here writing? And I'm like, I'm writing. He's like, let me see your comic. It was like, okay. And I happened to be tabling, so my comics were at my table. So I gave him the comics, and he read through them, and he's like, these are good. Send them to me. And, he's like, okay.
Did you follow up with him after that?
I sent him PDFs of all of Blight's Rising up to that point. He said,
Did you ever hear back?
He wrote back and said, when there's an opening on the calendar, I'll tell you, and we can put it in. Like
with the Antarctic Press? Dude, I know
Right?
Ben Dunn. I can, if you want, I can like refresh that conversation for
At
you.
some point in time, maybe that'd be fine, but I'm not pressed at this moment.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
he's
I'll
waiting.
I'll let him know.
Waiting for me to have more. So he wants me to finish 2 and 3. I think is what he's really waiting for, because
Okay.
he wants to start something akin to Shonen Jump. Something that has a number of 16-page runs. And one of the things he likes about Bellatrix is that I've lined it up exactly like manga in that instance. It's a bunch of 16-page runs.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was gonna say, because if you needed like a new introduction, if you felt like you needed that, like I'm not super close to Ben Dunn, but because with my work at Global Comics, like sometimes I end up talking
because
to
he's
him,
got a bunch of stuff on.
and the person who
that was
does,
actually something that was really fun the other day. I was noticing on Global Comics that my comic was right up there with all the Antarctic Press comics, just sitting in there in a little clump. And I was like, look at me being as important as the Antarctic Press comics.
Yeah, I have a little, like, I can't say that Ben Dunn and I are friends, because like one of his friends and I are like hate each other. Two of his friends and I hate each other. Like Twitter war level hate each other. But Ben himself has always seemed super chill.
Ben's
I've always
awesome.
wanted to get to know Ben better, because he does manga. Like, he seems like a really chill
I was
dude.
so freaked out when I talked to him at first. Then he just was like, "What's up?" I'm talking to Ben Dunn,
and that's what. Right? Like, that's what attracted me initially to, like, this podcast that he does. He does this podcast with a creator called Myobi. And, like, that's what attracted me to this podcast, is they all know manga. They all talk about manga. So I was like, wow, this seems, like, really cool. This seems, like, really chill. And then, like, for whatever reason, like, me and these two, like two of his co-hosts just couldn't get along. For whatever reason. It is what it is, but like whenever, like, I've been at conventions, I've always stopped by the Antarctic Press booth, said hi. Like, I haven't actually gotten to meet him in person yet, but I'd like to. He seems like a really cool guy. I'd really like to get to know Ben better, but we'll see how it goes. He seems nice.
Maybe I'll introduce you
Sounds
to
like
him.
you had a really good experience too.
I said, maybe I'll introduce you to him.
Maybe. Yeah, like, I've always, because like I want to meet more like manga people, and he seems like he knows what he's talking about. So like, I'd love to like get to talk to someone who has like way more like actual like industry experience than me, because the only experience I really have is like vicariously through other people and like what they've told me, and then like Tokyo Pop. That's really the only like manga experience that I have. So I'd love to like actually get to talk to people who have done it and are doing it. You know what
Aliens,
I mean? So I've always wanted to get to talk
to them. And I'm like, maybe.
Well, there's flexing, and like, which is, to me, is showing off, and then there's like, there's just, this is the reality of what happened.
No, I there was no chance I was showing off. However, sometimes there is just a flex, because flexed, and I can kind of see that that's what he's saying, is that was a big move. And it was like, but I didn't think about it. Usually I don't think about that until after it's happened, which is probably good, because if I think about it at the time, I'll get all caught up in it, and then I'll freak myself out. So I agree with you, Brent. I will knuckle down, and I'm working on book 2 right here, right now. That's what we're doing right this second, because James trashed it, as I expected he would. He didn't trash it.
Wait, which
my buddy James.
Which one? Was it one of the ones that was at
Nope.
Red Team Go? Okay, different James. Because I know like 3 James that were out there in Colorado.
James is my best bud. He's the one I went to high school with, and we worked together and swapped stories back and forth.
Yeah,
he's with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. The James I know is too young. So, and he's a lieutenant colonel. So I usually like to pass all of my stuff through him to make sure it's up to military spec. But I usually get a first blush off of it from Brent, Brent and Donald are both military as well. And so they'll nail it if I do something wrong. And so that's actually one of the things I like to keep, I keep them around, if you will, for is because both of them will be like, that's not going to fly. You know what I mean? Like, and even if it doesn't fly,
Yeah.
but I want to do it, at least then I know I have to make up a rule to make it work. For example, they're just going to adopt a 14-year-old girl onto the ship. It's a military ship. Well, yes. So I built this entire rule structure about, working on a ship when, you can apprentice effectively on a ship now, as long as the ship is not actively in combat. You can apprentice on a ship. But I did that because I was on here with Donald at one point, and Donald was like, I don't think I've ever heard of any Navy doing that, So we go to comics and he's like, can I see some? And you pull out a printed copy. Yep.
Such a power move.
I didn't think about it until later. But now I'm like, here's some printouts. They're printed professionally. And not only that, I mean, when I did it, I made sure that we've got boards and they're in a plastic bag, so they're, they look like they're just straight out of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Aliens? We were talking about this before, man. Bellatrix Rising is sci-fi military.
Yeah, you guys were like gushing about it on Thursday.
I thought we lost you because you went to go read it. We gave you a link. Let's see if I can give you a link again. I might be able to give you a link again. Watch me do that. It always goes there. I don't want it to go there. I want it to go there. Yep. Yeah, this is a military sci-fi. Bellatrix Rising is... Oh, there you go. Bellatrix Rising is military sci-fi. So it's the whole series is military sci-fi. But that's why I have everybody... I used to be a Trek. I used to write Trekkie fan fiction, Star Trek fan fiction, and I was writing a series called Tamerlane, which was based on not the Enterprise of Star Trek, so just some other ship. You're welcome. Some other ship that was tootling around the galaxy with its own crew and everything like that. And then I was having this discussion with my dad, and he's like, "How many pages of Tamerlane have you written?" I said, "I don't know, something like 300." He's like, "You can't sell any of those. They all belong to CBS." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I didn't think about selling them." And he's like, "Why not? They're not bad. The stories are solid. The characters are believable, and you've got all this, stuff, and you clearly know how to draw." And he's like, "So why don't you just do what that Seth MacFarlane guy did? Change the uniforms, change the ships, and call it your own. Nothing you did in Tamerlane was with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, so it won't matter. You don't need to change anything." And I was like, "Oh, I guess you're right. I hadn't even thought about it, And then, so I was like, well, here's the thing. I'll go in and do some world building because there's this COVID thing starting up. I don't know, weird thing. Probably will last a month or so. So I'll just do world building during COVID. And then when we open back up in a month, I'll start writing the new thing." Well, we all know how long COVID lasted. And it wasn't until Brent was like, "That's it. Stop with the star maps." And that was like Brent's thing. He's like, "That's it. No more star maps. You've got to stop with the star maps.
You've got to do the thing.
Writing your story. Start it. Just start it. Just start it."
Just do it. Just do it.
So we weren't quite clear of COVID, but then it was 2 years later when finally, because we've been streaming this since just before COVID started. The maps are beautiful too. I'm very proud of them. But yeah, they're also accurate to about 3 light years. So there's that. Or maybe I think it's actually probably more like 5 or 10 light years, but still, I don't want to mess with it anymore. But yeah, so that's kind of a thing. So that's the story of where this came from.
The Marines put you up to this.
Yeah, it's one of those things. But I mean, like, he wasn't wrong. We just need to stop. Like, here are the infamous star maps. Like, here's our galaxy, right? And this actually, this map is pretty accurate to what we know is the galaxy. Like, we're right in this section right here. So you kind of zoom in right into this section right here into Aquila Bay. And that's this little section, and we're right in this little place here. We keep zooming in and in this area, and then that breaks down to, this whole quadrant breaks down to the next map, which is this guy here, right? So that is just 2 of those. And then you break in here, and then you've got the human local zone, and this is our POZ for what what Unity controls in this area. And the Unity is here, the Pleiades are here, Beehive is here, the Commonwealth is here, and Sol is right there. So the Pleiades are actually these guys right here. They're moving along crossways across the galaxy.
No.
So the Pleiades actually, they believe, belonged to another galaxy that collided with us a long, long, long time ago. So the Pleiades aren't moving in the same way. They're moving kind of crossways across the arm. And they're not the same type of stars. They're different.
Oh, and that's like inertia type, basically, because so they're still moving.
Yeah, they're still moving
direction.
across the arm. So if you look at the arm itself, let's move back to the bigger one, bigger map here. These arms, everything is kind of moving in a way that's kind of like towards the center, right? So all the arms keep kind of pulling in, but the Pleiades are moving this way.
That makes sense. Then, yeah, based on that trajectory, it would make sense it was a collision.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that became fun. Hey, but I did it.
That's super cool. You have a 3D version of the galaxy?
No, I have a 3D version of the local space, but yeah.
Okay. That's so, like, such a boss move. That's so cool.
Yeah. There you go. So this is the local space. So Bellatrix is right here. So for those of you who are wondering, Bellatrix is the left shoulder of Orion. So if you look at the constellation of Orion, the left shoulder is Bellatrix, the right shoulder is Betelgeuse. The 3.
I was wondering if that's what the reference was to.
It's the left star of Orion. So
I was wondering. I always wanted to ask.
You were worried you get an explanation like this. These are all real stars that are right around Bellatrix. These are like honest to God stars that are literally around it. So like all of these are places that I have now named, because of course nobody's going to land on these planets and then go, oh, we're going to name it ARC 4432105 because that's easy. Instead, they're going to name it something else. So like they do that and everything goes through here. And then here's Moment right here. This is where we are in the story right now. So it's in the sunset sector. And this is that new thread terminus that the whole story is talking about. So in the story, they've opened a new terminus. A thread has come in from Earth directly. Bob. We're calling it Planet Bob. You guys just need to... This is where one Ford Prefect is from here. So this is the thread that comes in, starts up in this story. That's one of the... We're both going completely different. Absolutely. It's just that it's a Star Trek-esque story, but it is definitely military. So it becomes one of those things where every so often my military folks say, not sure. So you can also see here the wall, and this is where the clouds of hydrogen H1 clouds start. There's a bubble that surrounds the Earth, and the theory is with the astronomers that when the Pleiades came through our area, it took the H1 clouds with it. So they created this open area around Earth and around Sol and around all the Vega and, Sirius and, Alpha Centauri, all those stars that are close to us. There's this open gap in the H1 clouds. And so the H1 clouds are just hydrogen clouds. They're not hard, they're not easy to see, but they're there. And in my story, they cause problems with the in-space drives. So the drives get bogged down in these clouds and they have to slow down. So everything on this side of the wall here is all like civilization. Everything on the other side of the wall back here is kind of the wild, wild west of the Unity. So everything on the other, because everybody has to slow down as soon as they go under the wall. So once they leave gap jump here and jump across to Golrion or Moment, they immediately slow down in the H1 clouds. So that causes a problem, which is why this thread opening up straight to Moment is a big deal. These threads can be traveled using a jump or a fold space drive, but they can only run in the thread. So as long as there's a thread, you can use a fold generator to get from point A to point B, and it's instantaneous. If you don't have a thread, then you have to use what's called the in-space drive, which is a faster than light drive, but it's much slower than instantaneous. So it's like from Bolatrix to, say, the unknown home here would be like a 5-day journey or something like that. So it takes more time. But if you were to jump at Port Longfall, you can jump on this hub connection and be instantly at the hub. Boom, in an instant, because it's on the thread. Moreover, you can get on at Port Longfall and end up at Earth instantly. Yeah, they won't let you because Earth is right now a protected zone, but you could. And you can travel anywhere on this network of these threads that appeared after the war. It's a result of the final battle between the good guys and the bad guys that happened about 500 years ago in my story. So this thread terminus just opens up here. And in our story, the thread terminus opens up because of Alex. She opens it up. And that gives you a good sign that she's not entirely normal. They don't see it. Our characters don't see it. So they don't understand what happened. So because of that, that's just, so we're going to spend the rest of the story with them slowly, our characters slowly becoming aware that she is much more than she looks. She's not just your average little 14-year-old girl. And that's the whole thing. So there's the story. And that's where we are. If you look over here, I've got this cool widget, which I love. This is my cool way of looking at the galaxy. So galactic north and galactic south are to the top and the bottom of the galaxy. Edgeward is to the edge of the galaxy, and of course coreward is to the core of the galaxy. Trailing means that that's the direction where all the stars have been moving from, and leading is where all the stars are going. So that's our 6 ways of finding out where you are in this. So, yes. So anyway, I built this, and Brent was like, "Stop building star maps." He actually has no problem with me building the star maps. What he has a problem with is I did this originally by doing the math, and I did the math wrong, and all my star maps screwed up.
I remember that.
And I got so frustrated because we are really close right here to where these real stars are. These all have real names. All these stars have real names. Mm-hmm. And they're the right colors too. If you're looking at the colors of all these stars, these are the correct colors of these stars. And so they have real names and they're like real stars. But then I did the math wrong because all of our star charts are Earth-centric. And so the way we know where a star is in the night sky is how far up is it from the Earth's equator and how far over is it from 0 degrees, or rather Greenwich Mean Time, right? And so
foiled again.
Yeah, I made for a slow show. I appreciate that. Well, and I actually think you were right to stop me from going into the infinite loops of, am I doing the math right? Infinite loops. So, yeah.
It's easy to get caught up
I got totally caught up in it.
Yeah, and then like never actually get anything done because you're too focused on the research part.
And it's boring as far as the show
The
goes.
re-
So those two pieces are right here. This is the wall, past the
yeah,
wall.
the research part you can develop over time, but if you don't, if you just sit there and focus on that, you'll never make any progress in the actual manga
Yeah.
itself.
But now that I'm done with all of this, I'm happy and we can park it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
all of these things are like different parts that are really here. That's what's so interesting about this is this all is real stuff. Like if you look beyond the beehive right here, this is what's left of Betelgeuse. In my future, Betelgeuse is already blown up. So this is what's left of it in this little dot here. This is the Vela superstructure, which is a huge, massive H2 cloud and H1 cloud. And then this is the Orion. This is the entire Orion, um, uh, the Orion clouds, the nebula. I don't know why nebula just went boop and lost, but the Orion Nebula is behind all of Orion by a long ways. But we see it as if all these stars are in it. But this is a birthing nebula, and there's stars appearing in here all the time, including the Eagle Nebula, which is what you see when they talk about the pillars of creation. That's in here in this Orion superstructure. And then for some reason, there's an open gap over here called the Vela supershell. And so it's just another open area that's just like over here. So there's probably some other star system moving this way that came from that other galaxy. But the Pleiades is also a birthing nebula. So all the stars in the Pleiades are all birthing nebula stars. They're young, very young stars. So there you go. Star maps. I've given you now a total run of my star maps. You are welcome.
Thank you.
So we are working on this. And where were we? We were here. Trees, forest. I would totally love to see how you did the universe. Aliens, I would totally do that. That'd be so cool. I love world building. In fact, we started a world building page on Facebook. And it was a buddy and me who were talking about world building on Reddit because there are a whole bunch of subreddits for world building. We didn't find any really good ones on Facebook, so we started our own. And it's just for world building because I love the world building aspect. I mean, I'm trying not to continue. Now I'm trying to look at things like the politics and the way we handle things and the culture and things like that are kind of more interesting now. You know, what crafted my unity? Where did it come from? You know, because they were all rescued people from Earth. But since the aliens rescued people from Earth, they didn't take only people from the United States. They took effectively 1/10 of the population randomly chosen. So they didn't necessarily get any leaders. They didn't necessarily get any. They just took as many people as they could get onto their ships and shove them in. You know what I mean? Like they just, as fast as they could, because the Earth was being destroyed. And so they just took as many people as they could and just shoved them everywhere. So the 65,000 people that were saved from Earth were a mixed race of everybody. So now the culture has evolved from that 65,000 to the where we are now, which is multiple billions of humans, but they're all effectively like these new cultures and this new design and this new, you know, everything is drawn out of it. So you don't have Indians and Americans and, you know what I mean? Like you don't have those anymore. You don't have Japanese. You just have people who then branched off into these new things, you know. That's cool. I mean, that's the thing. That's kind of one of the reasons why I printed my comics and put them on Global Comics, because now it's out there. And I can prove that I did it. And I can prove that I did it first. You know what I mean? That was sort of why I did it. But also, that's one of the reasons why I broadcast it here. Because frankly, if I have to go to a court of law, it's not hard to go back 20 shows and show that I had already said all of this stuff years before they came up with it or whatever. So if someone wants to steal my stuff, it's going to be a hard fight for them. The realization I came to was copyright is on your shoulders to defend. There's no nothing. I mean, so you either just kind of go with it or not. My general feeling though is this: if someone's copying my stuff, they're not capable of doing it themselves. So all they've got is some early part of my story, and I've evolved past it anyway because it's coming from my soul here, you know. So I can come up with new stuff. You know, they can't. That's what I've always thought of all the time is if I can do this, if they can't do this, then that's on them, not me. And they're the ones that'll lose in the end.
Yeah.
Because they can't come up with new stuff. So once they stop stealing from somebody, they're out of material.
Additionally, if you're so attached to your idea that you're afraid people will steal it, you're a little too attached to it. Personally, because so for example with Godsbane, I've been sharing Godsbane and all its versions for 13 years. Dustin can attest to that. He's known me for like 10 of the 13 years. So like Dustin is like my
Right.
friend, if that makes sense. So like,
and we have both of them here tonight.
Like, right? Yeah. So like if I were to share Godsbane and people could technically steal it, like okay for them, they probably wouldn't be able to do it the same way that I can. Even though, like, sure, the concept might be similar, like they're not going to be able to do it the same way that I am because they don't know like what's in my mind for the entire story. There's a reason why I'm sharing like the characters and like some of the lore and some of the other things, but I'm not sharing the events that are going on because I don't want to spoil it. It's not because I'm afraid of people stealing it. I'm afraid of the spoilers.
Right? There's only so much that I'm explaining about my story too. I'm only trying to explain up to this year. Not explaining where we're going. If I run this the right way, there's 50 episodes, give or take, in this. And each episode has 3 issues. So to get to the end of this arc, there is a long way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like there's only so much that you can do when it comes to like preventing theft. And if you're so paranoid about theft, then you're gonna have a really hard time sharing your ideas like once it's time to start sharing it. Because ultimately you need to get you're gonna have to share it eventually. You can't hide it forever. And if you just have the paranoia of, oh my god, someone's gonna steal it, oh my god, someone's gonna steal it, oh my god, someone's gonna steal it, then you're gonna have a really hard time sharing it with people and actually trusting other people with it. Like, that's just an unfortunate reality that if you want to be in the space of making comics, you have to share your stuff. Otherwise, people aren't going to know about it, you know. And if you want to wait until you have your first few pages done to talk about it, that's perfectly fine. Some people choose to share their stuff like in advance, sort of like what I do, because I want to gain people's interest before it comes out. So I'm already starting to build my audience and building people that are interested in the character design or in the type of lore that I'm building. Like that's why I've been wanting to share it. And the story that I had like 10 years ago is completely different than what I have now. It's like 10 years ago, it was like 800 chapters. I'm not even joking you. But I was that person that I talked about in that one tweet that everybody hated. So like I was that person.
I'm smiling
I've been there.
because
That's
I just
why
talked about my 50 episodes with 3 issues each. So
so you get it. But yeah, so like it's a completely different story, dude. Completely different main characters even. Like Aros was not a main character in the original version. He was just a little minion that like didn't mean anything. He was just there, right? Like it didn't mean anything. It's like it's a completely it's like a completely different story. So yeah, now it's 8 books. it's 64 chapters. If it goes the way that I want it to go, like what I have planned, it's 64 chapters. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
So
I don't even know how
for
many
me, it's 150 comic books, and that'll be 300 chapters total, give or take. Right?
Let me do math. Yeah. Let's see. For me, it's 64 chapters. Each chapter will be roughly, I'll say 18 pages to count the cover, and they may vary slightly. So if I'm looking at, well, 8 books. Let's see, 8 chapters each with 8 books. 8 times 16 is 128 pages. 128 times 8, about 1,000 pages.
Yep.
A little more than 1,000 pages. This is going to be the entire story of God's Bane. That'd be like 5 tankobons.
Yep.
If you look at the 200-page variety. But I'm doing it in pages that are slightly less than that because I want to be able to add in bonus art. So especially if I go indie, that's why I'm going with only 8 chapters, since I want pages for bonus art and stuff. But yeah, so yeah. So I probably will still in the end have tankobon-sized books. I'll just have a shitload of bonus art at the end of each of them, and like thank yous, because I'm gonna have to do crowdfunding, so I need to make pages to account for, thanking people and talking about the journey and concept art and bonus art and blah 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 blah. I have to account for that too. So that's why I only did 8 chapters per book instead of the usual 10. So yeah. If I were to start God's Bane now and I were to do a page a day, it would take me 3 years to finish it all, but that's not taking a single day off. It's taking time off, especially holidays and like actual hiatus and birthday holidays. Like I estimated it would take me about 6 years to finish. Because realistically, there's going to be a lot of days I can't finish a page a day. So my estimation, if I do it on my own and Viz doesn't go anywhere, it'll be 6 years. I'll probably be about 40 before I finish it, which is scary to think about. Because then what?
Right.
I'm only 40. Then what? then what do I do with my life? I work on the Silmarillion version of God's Bane is what I'll do. I have 14 short stories that I'm writing. 40 is in like that's young. Like, what do I do? Like, I've got so much time left. What do I do with the remainder of my time? Not scary as in, oh my god, that's old. The opposite.
Right.
Scary as in, what else am I going to do with my life?
Well, and that's the thing. I'm worried about the other problem. And Brent's talking about this, at this rate, it'll go through his mid-60s. It's definitely going to go, my story is going to go definitely through my mid-60s. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's taking a while. I'm 51. So we're I'm going to be crunching through this as long as I can. I know that there's probably reality-wise, there's probably a moment that's going to come up where I'm going to have to switch to prose, because you can do prose easier than you can comics, because then it doesn't require drawing. I can write, so to speak, while driving from one place to the other, because I can just dictate the story into I actually have an app on my phone that I can just sit the phone down and then dictate to it. So I'm planning things ahead. I haven't used it very much yet and stuff, but I figure that's the thing I'll get used to.
Mm-hmm. For me, Brent. Okay, sorry. I thought you were done.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, for me, Brent, it's more of a. I've been working God's Bane for 13 years already. So for me, the idea that I'm done with, I started drawing like the same year that I started God's Bane. And so for me, I've known nothing else. I've never worked on anything other than God's Bane and the occasional project, like side project here or there. And when I say God's Bane, I mean God's Bane, like the original manga and all of the lore and short stories and concepts that go along with it. I can't imagine working on anything else unless it's in a professional setting, which I've done. I've worked with TPub. I did some lettering for them. I've helped other people occasionally with like some of their artwork and pages, and kind of like I've helped some other people with like miscellaneous things. Like I did some flatting for Airship 21 with one of their Wicked Awesome Tales. So like I did some stuff with that. I tried to help with cryptics and cogs. So like I tried to help with that. So like I've tried to work on various other small projects. But I've never really like worked on for like an extended period of time something that wasn't Godsbane. So it's more like I don't know what to do with myself afterwards because I know nothing else. I don't have a bunch of other stories that I'm working on right now. I've only worked on Godsbane as far as like writing goes.
Right.
I want to make other stories. It's not been a priority for me. And that's what I told the Viz editor because they asked me that. They're like, "Do you have would you be interested in doing one shots? Would you be interested in working with a writer? Would you be interested in like what other stories do you have other than Godsbane in the pipeline?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'd be okay working on one shots. Yeah, I'd be okay working with a writer. And no, I don't really have anything else other than like more Godsbane and it's like short story stuff." So like I don't have anything else. I've kind of only worked on this, and I've been so tunnel vision on it for so long. I don't have anything else. I have stuff I would like to do, but I've not started it. Like I'd love to do what Junji Ito does, with having like shorts, like like shorter stories, like in an anthology type setting with like yokai and supernatural works. I'd freaking love to do that. I'd love to get into horror. I think supernatural horror specifically, that would be super fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is probably my next story that I will work on at some point down the road. This is my Witches of Flight.
I'd be shocked if you didn't. I'd be surprised if you didn't.
Yeah, I've got to come back to this one. This one was good. But yeah, I have a second story that I was working on prior to this, prior to going to Latrix Rising, which was an alternate history of the space program. So suppose that we didn't stop at Apollo 17, but rather continued on. So I have, and the only reason that I've dropped this one temporarily is because there's an Apple TV series that's wonderful called For All Mankind, and that's actually the exact same premise. It's suppose they didn't stop at Apollo 17, but rather something happened, and all of a sudden, the Apollo 11 wasn't the first people to land on the moon, but instead the Russians landed on the moon first, and in doing so, altered and changed the history. And so they're following what would have happened if we had been in that position. And I wasn't going to concentrate on that part. I really wanted to talk about the first female astronauts because that was interesting to me, because there are so many things that people don't know that happened when we brought in our first female astronauts in the 80s. And because they were brought in the 80s, they only got a lot of misogyny, not a whole lot of misogyny like they would have if they'd come in on the 60s or the 70s. And so there's some bizarre stories that fascinated me and I think would be interesting to tell. So I had done this where my main character, her name was Eve. She's like a mechanical genius. She just knows how to fix things and knows how to do it and knows how to make it work. If you guys are wondering, this is a 41 Chevy pickup, and yes, I've accurately done the engine because I can't not. I'm so OCD. Anyway, that's one of my favorite.
You just care about your stuff.
I really do. Like, I also have a friend who's a gearhead and who could identify right there whether the rotor on top was wired correctly or not. So I didn't want him getting on there and saying, "You wired it wrong. The firing order is out of sequence. You would screw up that engine." So I made sure that I got the firing sequence right.
That's hilarious.
Because I know he would. I knew he would look at it. He's an old car guy, and he loves old cars, and he knows the Chevy Inline 6 like the back of his hand. So he'd be able to look at that and go, "Yeah, I did it wrong," So I even made the wires go to the right
Mhm.
place. And I was all proud of myself because he looked at it and went, "Hey, you even made the wires go to the right place." And I'm like,
That's amazing.
that was like my whole drive.
I love
Because
it.
he totally know what I was after.
I live for moments
Okay?
like that.
Right?
Well, it was like you and when I was doing the
Mhm.
archery thing, like making sure I did
Mhm.
it right. That's such a minor thing
But it's important.
that like hmm yeah, like if you know it
Yeah.
stands out. And so for me it's really cool when I see someone who like actually does like good archery poses that are like realistic and not just cool looking or dynamic looking, but they're completely wrong. And I'm like, that is not how her body would twist, or that's not how this character's hand should look like. Like that, they're gonna like snap their
Right.
fingers off.
Right. Yeah. It was good. And I'm kind of glad that For All Mankind kind of stopped me before I got too far down here. Because this had a lot of stuff. But some of the art that I got out of this is really fun. I like this. That one's cool. That one's always been one of my favorites. Like it's got all of the actual intakes and outtakes, but I modified it to be like the C7 astronaut.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being more like the Apollo runs, I went with more of the later ones that they were doing. I like that one. That's one of my favorites. And then there's the ridiculous picture, which is so much fun. I love this picture so much. Like I like that picture a lot. The problem is the printer sucked. So I printed it and then watercolored it. And I like the way it looked. It turned out really nice
Mm-hmm.
in
It looks
watercolors.
just look good.
Mm. Someday I'll get back to this. Like we actually have full pages that were ready to go. And that's upside down. There we go. Just like opening up the hood and looking at it.
You know, I have so much Godspeed lore that I'd love to be able to
Mm-hmm.
share about like how did the culture get to be this way? How did Amat become evil? Like, you know, like how did the stars form? Like everything that I've made for Godspeed, as far as like the lore, like is like I basically created it like its own mythology. Like, oh, that makes sense. That's why they would name this that, or that's why they do this, for their festivals or their culture. Like that's why they do those things. I've gone through all of that to try to make something that people could question and go, is this real?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this an actual thing? Like that's like how much detail like I wanted to have in the mythology. Um, so like it's been something I've been working on for like a really long time. But also just wanted to enjoy it. Like I love that. That's why for me, like Avatar was so cool. Both avatars, like the Airbender and Pandora, because it was like what actually that's actually what got me started making manga and animation in the first
Hey,
place. When that movie came out, like I had just had my TB diagnosis and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my
right.
life, and then that movie came out, and I'm like, oh my god, I want to do animation, and I want to tell stories. And so like everyone hates on Avatar, but you have Avatar to thank for me. So I'm just saying.
That's fair. I feel like there was something else. And yes, aliens, I would definitely want to see your stuff. I'm so looking forward to it someday. When you're ready, though, I don't want to see it before you're ready. That's very important to me. It's very important that you do what you need to do and do it your way. Have
Have
it
it
your
your way,
way.
Subway.
I am kind of worried. There was other pages. I know I made other pages. I'm like, where are the other pages of witches? We weren't that far in, but we were in. And now I'm kind of like, is witches missing for a reason? think I'm like, where did all the rest of it go? Oh, that's why. There we go. I was wondering where they were. I was like, I've got toned pages. They've got tone in them. I'm like, where did that go? And these look much better than the blue line ones. There's a missing page. Where's the missing page?
No, those look really nice. But all the stuff that you're sleeping on, Guy, my goodness.
I know, right? I'm like, and this is such a cool scene too, because I called my buddy, the guy that I said like knows everything about these cars, and I said, tell me something about this particular vehicle that nobody would know, that only people who really know what they're doing would know. And he said, you can take the registration card out of your glove box, and if you fold it 3 times, you can regap your points. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, I used to do it all the time. And I'm like, sweet. So that's what I had her do here, right? He says the points need to be at about 20,000s, and registration cards are about 5,000s thick. And Daddy borrowed my feeler gauges. And so he's like, are you fixing my truck with a folded registration card? It'll get you home.
It'll get you home.
You know, like I wanted to really show that she was clever and she knew what she was doing, and like machines were a thing. Because I feel like with me, every character that I've ever written is some aspect of me, right? So like Eve has always been that aspect of me that just loves machines. You know, it's just like I love machines and I love knowing how they work, and I want to know what all. So that's what Eve portrays. She's the character, part of me that just loves machines, right? Whereas Chang is the part that loves being in space and wants to be out there on the frontier and move forward and stuff like that. That's a different aspect of me. But she's a different character. She's a different face of me, you know? So, yeah.
That's super cool.
So, yeah. Yeah, all this stuff I'm sitting on, like this whole thing, right? And as we interrupt this program to give you a news bulletin, last week the National Aeronautics and Space Administration received a strong signal coming from Mars. Repeat, a strong signal from Mars. Yep. The government has confirmed that the signal is not from the Soviets, and indeed it isn't from anywhere on Earth. James Webb was the administrator at that time. So I put, James Webb, NASA administrator, says that the signal seems to be friendly and not hostile in any way. In the coming months and years, there will be a great change in our space program. 2 weeks ago, we were going to the moon. Today, we're going to go to Mars. And so that's what they're saying here is then, we will need tens of thousands of people, scientists, engineers, mechanics. We will need every hand we can get to make this mission come true. They called us, let's answer. And then he looks at her. I guess so. They said they're going to need engineers and mechanics. And she's like, Uncle Bob, you can't even keep this old pickup going. I don't think you... Stare. You aren't talking about you, are you? Stare. I really was doing good with this one. This story is solid. I was kind of ticked off at For All Mankind. I'm like, you took all the wind out of my sails. Yep. Yep. I like these pages too. Those are good. Like this one here where I did Kennedy. We chose to go to the moon and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they're hard.
That's funny because I like how you even added the accent.
Well, it's because he talked like that.
Yeah.
And then I had so much fun drawing this atlas. Zero G and I feel fine. Yep. Man, that Mercury Atlas, what a mess. So amazed that thing ever did anything. So John Glenn, this is one of my favorite stories about John Glenn. John Glenn comes up, and so they've been running the Atlas, which was a modified ICBM, by the way. It was designed to carry nuclear weapons, and they took out the nuclear warhead and then stuck a capsule on it. When Sam Shepard went up, he went up on a Redstone rocket, which didn't have enough oomph to get him into orbit. It just had enough to go up, then come back down. Glenn was going to go into orbit. They needed more power, so they put the Atlas out there. Well, the Atlas had been blowing up a lot. It had been exploding on the pad. It had been going up like 50 feet and then detonating. The Atlas was a monster it was just janky. Well, there finally comes the day they're going to put him up there, and he walks up and he talks to one of the engineers and looks at the other engineers and goes, "Okay, so the Atlas." And the guy goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "So they've been blowing up a lot." And the guy goes, "Yeah, we fixed that, we think." And he goes, "Okay." And he just walked right past them and got in there. And I'm like, that's a steely-eyed missile man. I'm like, he just walked up. He's like, "You fixed it. That's good enough for me." And he was just fine with it. And I'm like, I would not have been fine with it.
Yeah, but things were not fine.
But then that Atlas put him up there. It pushed. So it did it. It did its job. Cool. And I'm like, man, Mercury Atlas, that's a wild, wild monster. Good rocket. Scary. Really, really scary. A good, scary rocket. There we go.
Can you imagine like being him during that like liftoff phase where he's like, "Please, please, 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 please,
right?
Please, 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 keep going."
Well, I mean, like he was hardcore Korean War Navy, right? Like he had some hairy landings, you know. So he was like, "Yeah, if I die on this one, that's where I end." You know what I mean? Like that was his theory. Was like, it's okay as long as it doesn't hurt. You know. Right, and then hurt. Later on in his life, what does he do? He promptly goes up again on STS-97, and I'm like, and he at that time is like 80 something, and you're like,
balls of steel.
And he's on a shuttle flight, and he's doing the same thing. He's like, cool, so you know, you can test me and test all my bones and everything like that, and see what old people are like up in space. And I was like, dude. Again, I was like, you're steely-eyed missile man, dude. 80 freaking years old, and you're like, yeah, sure. Stick me on the back of the rocket. I'll be fine.
Just throw me in there. It'll be all good. I'll make it work.
So I actually think I really do like the story I had going with Witches, so I'll come back to the Witches of Flame at some point. Witches of Flame, by the way, is a reference to the Night Witches, the next Noxtaxen, which were a series of Russian women during World War II that flew these horrible, horrible biplanes and bombed the Germans. And the biplanes were so loud that what they would actually do is they would fly up to the German line and then kill the engine and coast. They'd glide over German territory and drop the bombs. Shit. And then the girl in the back of because it was a two-seater, the girl in the back would then climb out of the airplane along the side of the aircraft, go up to the front of the aircraft, and hand crank start the engine again. And then climb back in.
Oh my gosh.
But because of that, they couldn't hear them. All they could hear was the whistling of the rattling of the fabric of the wings and the rattling of the fabric of the aircraft. So the only warning they got was this sound that sounded like brooms, like wind rushing through brooms. So they started calling them Noxtaxen or Night Witches. And so I'm making a reference of that with this and calling it, the Witches of Flame or Flame Witches, right? So that's the reference there too. I actually really like Witches. I'll come back to it. It's in there. It's not going anywhere. It'll be fine. You're right. I'm sitting on so many weird things. I don't even know what my problem is. It's so strange.
Just time to do everything.
I don't have enough time for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have time for it all. That's all right. I've got stuff. It's all good. Somewhere out there.
Now it's kind of my problem with God's Bane. I just never had time.
Yeah. Well, I got time now, so that's what I'm doing. Oh, here's I'm looking around at stuff here and going, oh wow, look at all these things. Why? Well, there's the champion. I love this picture. It's always been one of my favorites.
Oh yeah,
the Tammy is such a pretty ship. But even here, I loved my splashes in this. They were pretty cool. Then where's the one that's with? Yeah. So my three main leads. Can you get the chief engineer in town? Yeah, about that. Some good stuff. This one's not bad either. And I used color creatively for this. So like this room is full of just dead bodies. So I made it all red, with the exception of all the characters. The Makos are the only ones who are in there. Makos and Bennett. And Bennett's like, I don't care. That's who she is. So I also introduced the CSIs. So Starfleet CSI. I thought that was fun too.
Does she have a cool set of glasses?
No. That would be cool though. She'd take them off. And then take off another pair. And then take off another pair. Like 60.
Just make it like a meme.
Make a meme, yeah.
She just always has glasses. She's just always taking her glasses off in like every panel. And you're like, wait, didn't she already take those off?
Right? There's the Pythagoras. Those are Klingon I-9s. I like those guys. I invented those. I made them up. They look pretty cool.
Misa, that was really loud.
That was loud, but we know you. This is back in the days when the Tammy was part of a wolf pack. She was part of the war. And then a D7 shows up, and life goes bad. Yep. All right, yeah, I've got a ton of these. This is the thing that gets me every time, is this. This is the champion. Right? I mean, like, that's a lot of work. My dad's not wrong. You know?
Yeah, you have so much stuff. Like, it's a shame that you're not sharing it with people.
Right? I can't sell it. I can't do anything with it. I can't. It's just stuck. That's all.
Just do it anyway.
Good night.
The worst they can do is send you as DNC.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to repurpose these stories. I'll use them in here in Bellatrix, and they'll be more advanced. I'll make them more I'll grow them up a little bit. Cochran in her dress uniform. She hates her dress uniform.
That's a noob.
She hates her dress uniform. I like this picture too.
I don't.
Nope. Go back one.
Ooh,
this one's cool too.
One does look good.
But I like this one.
Yeah, that one. That does look cool.
I was trying to illustrate shuttle bays on these guys.
There's definitely an audience for this out there. I know there is. Like, you just gotta find them.
Oh, there was a big audience. Some of the people who follow Tamerlan now are people who, Well, and this got me to help work out with the Farragut. Starship Farragut is a fan film group that's been doing episodes of classic Star Trek, but it's not the Enterprise; it's the USS Farragut, and they've been doing these fan films of the Farragut for a long time, and that's been wonderful. And then they did, somewhere along the line, they were doing 2 animated episodes, and they were going to do them like the original animated episodes of Star Trek. This is a long time ago, long before the new Star Treks and everything like that. And they were like, we need people who have animation skills. And then they were reading my comic, and they're like, can you help us? I'm like, I would love to help you. So I joined Farragut's team, and I was working with them, and now I'm all embedded with the Farragut team. They're currently doing a movie era version. Like it's like the 80s movies. The movie, like Star Trek 1 and Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 3. So everybody's got Monster Maroons. They are all on this beautiful, beautiful set that they built that looks exactly like the movie set of Star Trek. And it's insane. Their level of detail is just insane. Their Klingons are correct with all the bumpy ridges and everything. They don't look like some guy who just stuck the thing on their head. They actually have the makeup done correctly and everything. Like it's wild. It is just insane how well they've been doing things.
That's amazing.
So, yep, I do like this picture. I like this picture too. That's Bennett and Bennett. So Bennett was wounded, and so when she was wounded, she got artificial arms and legs. So she was shorter when she was earlier. This is the way she was before. And this is the way she is now. So that's why her hair is 2 colors, and that's why her eyes are 2 colors too. So, yeah. Anyway, it's now 11:11. It's midnight on your side, and it's midnight for Brent, and it's midnight for a lot of people. And I feel like I have done good today.
You have done very good.
Let's save this as, not in maps though, but in Voyager's Rising. And I'll put it in here. I don't know. All right, I'll put it in here. I'll park it. And then that way I don't lose these scenes. Can you... At me? Oh, you mean at me? Sure. Thank you for asking. And since you asked, I'll know it's you and not a bot.
There shouldn't be bots in my Discord.
Yeah, but you probably should be looking for at GS Davis Art for on YouTube, because you're coming in through YouTube, and so you may want to at my channel there, which is still GS Davis Art, just like it says.
I think he means he's gonna at you in the Discord.
You can at me in the Discord too. Although I don't have Discord running at the moment, so I will look at it tomorrow morning, because I am going to go to bed. I am going to pretend like I'm a normal human and try to go to bed, because somebody has to get up with somebody and make sure that somebody gets to school. And I won't name any names, but it's probably me. So there's that.
No!
It's the trials and tribulations of being a dad. I have dad duties. I have dad jobs to do. And I
can't relate. Although this monster, the cat's the one who gets me up.
That's my problem. Like, George has recently started this thing where he makes this weird, eerie caterwaul. You know, like wow, like that, and it sounds like he's sick. And he's not. He's just wandering through the house making this weird noise. And it gives me the weirdest dreams. It's like so weird.
It sounds like a lonely, sad meow. Miso does that sometimes.
Yep.
Just them bored, wanting attention.
Yep. And it's just I'm bored and wanting attention. That's it. All right, my friend. I am OOH. I will be here tomorrow morning. Try to remember that tomorrow night we haven't moved Geek Tank yet. And so Geek Tank
Okay.
doesn't know that it's supposed to be at 8 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock, and we haven't talked about whether we want to do that or not. So I won't be online until 10. Just so you're aware.
Till 10
My
your
time, so 11 yours.
Okay, so I'll be starting.
If you want to just start the stream early by an hour, I'll join you in an hour, and I don't mind having 1 hour on Monday nights. That'd be like kind of nice.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, and that'll force me to like practice getting it started on my own. So that'll be a good thing.
Coolio, guys. Thank you all for joining me, and I appreciate it. It's good to see you, aliens. Good to see you. Good to meet you, Dustin. Of course, Brent was here, but he went away. Jung was here, and earlier we had all kinds of other people here, but it's been a while. So, and then we had Chuang here earlier, but I haven't seen them in a while, so sure they're still here. If they went to sleep, which is entirely possible, or went to work. I keep forgetting they're on the other side of the world. So, but thank you all for joining us. We will see you all tomorrow morning. I will be on stream again from 9 to 11 a.m. And as always, as I always say, keep your eyes on the stars. Good night.
Good night.